Welcome back to the promotion tournament where Giants have a 1-0 lead against NIP going into game 2, and they did not look like they had lost control of that game at any point, Stress.
No, not lost control. I think once they had control, they kept hold of it, but there was that power struggle in the early game where we weren't quite sure. It looked like NIP were about to show up.
It was just like the first season of Game of Thrones up until like episode 8. Like nothing happened, but things were about to happen.
You could tell it was tense.
It's not a spoiler when it's season 1.
That's kind of true. It's like 7 years ago. It's fine. Anyway, not 7 years ago. We're living in the present right now. So we were looking at perhaps what could change. We talked a lot about the mid lane matchup already. I think we now switch focus to another lane and look at the bottom lane because we talked minitroupax up. And we were like, this guy's great. This guy looks amazing. I don't think anything needs to change for minitroupax in this game.
I mean, he played Caitlyn, and he did his job, but don't let that take away from the fact that he still did exceptionally well towards the latter half of the game once he got to his 3-item spike. I mean, this is not a guy you want to be dealing with in the late game.
It's a lot of damage at that point. 906 damage per minute as Caitlyn at that point. 602 had a decent matchup. It was in response to the Kalista first pick out of NIP, and I think that's where I want to change the focus to, because I don't hate the Kalista first pick. I think it can have impact. I think you basically can have it do very well through the mid game if you're fighting with it, if you're active with it, even especially against the Caitlyn, because that's where her dip should be. But I think what teams are starting to realize, and we've even heard Schalke talking about that, is if you put a gank the Kalista's way early, sure, it didn't go successfully for Giants, but it can delay Kalista. You can actually deny a lot of what she wants to do and put her somewhat behind.
Yeah, and it seemed like that wasn't the only thing that really set behind NIP. Like, in the laning phase, things were obviously just a little tense, a little bit back and forth. But that mid lane matchup was where things really started to go wonky, because while Nagne was holding on all right, Jizuke just ran away with the game.
In a very good matchup for Jizuke. Now we know Jizuke can play a multitude of different champions and roles. Mid lane.
He wasn't every lane that game, so I kind of felt like he was playing every role.
Exactly. He only played 4 champions in the regular split when you look at it. The Echo is one of them. He played a bunch of Orianna. I want to see what happens when you put him on different champions. Now, we've seen him on teams in the past being able to cope very well. Jizuke was on Team Forge, who we had in Challenger before, and we've always said that he was a good player, but I want to see NIP put him in a bad matchup, put him in something that is maybe even to negative for Jizuke.
And we've seen Nagne showcase some of the ability to outplay opponents in the lane, but also in the later stages of the game. I mean, there was a reason Giants banned out the Taliyah against him. I expect that to honestly be the same. But I feel like he's going to have to find a different answer. I mean, what is he going to try and pick to deal with Jizuke?
Well, it's going to be difficult in this game because Giants, they had side selection this game, and as we head into picks and bans, they're lined up on the red side again. So NIP won't have a counter pick here for mid lane unless Giants select their mid laner early. So in the last game, we had a lot of priority on supports. When you look at the Rakan, the Thresh, the Alistar, but we already have an adjustment in the ban phase. Cassiopeia taken off the board early on.
Okay, so you can see where Ninjas and Pyjamas are preoccupied, but Giants' game plan remains unchanged.
And I wonder whether that indicates the Taliyah pick, if available, that will come through from NIP. Cassiopeia, one of the matchups that can do well into Taliyah.
The most played champion out of Nagne. Of course, 8 times in the European LCS. See if he gets his hands on it again. The Orianna is also banned away by Giants once more.
Was, as you said, banned in the last game. No changes out of Giants so far. I don't anticipate them changing anything and still banning that Taliyah, which means NIP is still likely to first pick the Kalista. It is going to be the Rakan that is available, so Giants may even go for Xayah Rakan for themselves on the first rotation if they wanted it.
Jactroll was, a few shooting from the hip early fires on the Cosmic Radiance, but overall, he did what he needed to do. Give that guy pick like Rakan, he might be able to work some magic. It's Taliyah ban once again.
So there it goes. So are we going to get the Zac through from Shook? He got it in the last game. Will it be the Kalista? Maybe they even take the Caitlyn away at this point. I don't think they'll value the Rakan high enough to first pick it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they want to put the power in Prophet's hands with the Gnar first pick.
So Giants got their hands on Gnar. Ruin had a decent matchup where he could maintain the side lane presence. Ruin, I haven't seen any of the counter matchups out of him. The hard counters in the sense of the Aurelia that people talk about, the Yasuo. He has, however, played the Jarvan himself if he wants to play the opposite side of that matchup. He's also played the Rumble. So that might be something we end up seeing Giants pull out, but at this point, it's Giants opting for the Kalista, the other pick that minitroupax played even more of in the regular split.
I'm wondering if they don't actually just snap up the Rakan right here and play the Kalista-Rakan combination.
Yeah.
It's very possible. They didn't seem to have any qualms about giving away Zach last time around to HeaQ, and they were able to keep tabs on him the whole time. All right, 5 seconds left to go, and it looks like instead it's going to be the Maokai once more.
Yeah, Maokai worked very well for Gilius. He was able to have an impact in the lanes as well as in the team fights. Perhaps a quieter game out of Gilius in the sense that the game wasn't about Gilius. He wasn't playing a carry. We've seen this evolution of Gilius throughout the regular split so that he can now play those tanks, those carries at the same time.
Yeah, whatever is needed from the team. And that's what minitroupax said in the post-game interview when they had up against Wind and Rain, that's just something that they've had him do, but if he does need to carry, he's perfectly capable of doing it. Now, Tristana locked in for HeaQ. They have one more chance. All right, looking for the Sejuani we are. No Zach this game.
So no Zach. HeaQ wants to be able to engage from a little bit further away in the sense of he can just throw a projectile out. Of course, Zach has to throw himself as a projectile at the enemies. So this is a little closer to what NIP were running up against the Fnatic series in game 1. Gnar plus the Tristana, this kind of combination, will give them some sense of earlier presence against the Kalista in those early fights. But look, Giants already saying, okay, you want to start team fighting against us, you want to try and get these fights started, disengage, here's where we're going.
Take themselves the Janna. So no need for the Rakan, and now we enter ban phase 2. Blitzcrank off the board, so they're starting to once more hammer at the support champion pool.
And this is because Blitzcrank, you can play into the Janna and into the Kalista. Difficult to lock them down, but if a hook does land, very few options available to actually get you out of that situation.
Now it is over to NIP. Do they continue to stick with the bans that they had done last time? It is the Camille, so they're the ones that are trying to not allow the counter matchup to come in.
Yep, trying to make sure there's no good matchup left for Giants. We also sometimes see Shen bans come through against Gnar. It's not exactly a great matchup. You end up getting pushed in quite heavily, but you have the presence to get on with the Stand United, which we've seen have good impact alongside a Kalista and a Janna when you can just put a bunch of shields on. That happened yesterday in the last game between Schalke. Even a beautiful team fight happened, getting like a multi-person taunt. But Giants, we'll see whether they end up with that on their team.
I feel like that would work really well for Ruin, too, because it would force him to play a little further back. Instead, the Echo ban comes out preemptively, which says that maybe Nagne wants to pick up the Syndra once again. And with Giants having banned that Lulu, now we get to see what the mid lane matchup's going to be. Not quite yet, though. We do want to see that top lane first.
Remember, Jizuke has also played the Echo into the likes of a Victor and an Orianna as well. So it's a solid matchup for Jizuke, but the LeBlanc is still there. That's a Poppy.
Okay.
So that could be Maokai in the top lane with Poppy in the jungle. That's what we've been seeing the Unicorns of Love run with the Poppy. There is the option for it to be Poppy top lane. We'll track that as the lane matchups actually solidify themselves here. Braum would be a good pickup for Ninjas in Pyjamas here. When you look at it, Tristana Braum, Sejuani Braum, good synergy. That's not where they're going, apparently.
No. As the timer ticks down, it ends up being the Morgana that's locked in. A little bit more range, a little bit more poke, but also
Black
Shield.
Yeah, also gives extra push power as well. Morgana doesn't quite have the teamfight presence as a disengage that a Janna has, because you kind of have to just be in the fight and you end up dying because you support and you don't really have a whole lot of survivability. Corki would be a scaling component here and a blind pick into Giants. It might be the Syndra we just see come out from Jizuke. We've seen it in one game in the regular split.
All right, so for Ninjas in Pyjamas, it seems like they've gone for a fair mix of damage and CC for their team fights, but not sure where this is all going to be going. I'll ask you about that one because the timer's still ticking down, and they are eyeballing the Kassadin for Jizuke, and it's locked in. Oh, that's going to be some late game damage.
Haven't seen it this split out of Jizuke, but look, Kassadin, an old EU favorite. Again, you get side lane control. Again, you can survive through the laning phase against Corki. Remember, Corki's base AD was reduced, so less laning trading potential. Kassadin will be even safer. This is a matchup people were saying was good for Kassadin even before a lot of those nerfs happened on 7.16. Jizuke taking a matchup where he can scale, do a lot of damage in the later game, try and run those side lane threats. 20 seconds left. and is the point at which you can no longer swap. So it's going to be Poppy in the top lane, Maokai in the jungle. I anticipate this is a matchup Ruin expects to hold a side lane later on and then be able to disengage any fights alongside this Janna. But against a Gnar, that doesn't look particularly likely to be able to hold the side lane.
All right, so Giants have a very clearly defined game plan with a lot of side lane control and some serious late game damage. What are NIP going to do to shut this down, Stress?
For NIP, they of course have good team fighting when you look at the Gnar, the Sejuani. They've got a Morgana to look for catch as well. Maybe it's the Sejuani ultimate into the Morgana Dark Binding that can line up team fights, but NIP maybe a little bit more of a rounded composition where you have some mid-game damage with the Tristana that can scale as well. You've got Corki that can scale. Prophet should have control of the side lane for a long time in this game, at least in my estimation, but we don't see a lot of Gnar and Poppy in the top lane anymore, at least not the Poppy aspect of it.
Yeah, things are a little bit different, a little unexpected. So Giants have brought a few interesting ideas into the promotion tournament, and as game number 2 kicks off, we'll see if they're going to be enough to guide them to a game 2 victory, or will NIP answer back and equalize. We're on to the Rift to find out.
NIP running the Morgana, the Tristana in the bottom lane. That's quite a deadly lane if you can actually get the Dark Binding to hit. Janna doesn't have the most amount of sustain in her kit. Of course, even opting for the Fairy Charm as well, so no potions. So one stray Dark Binding would be enough to kind of win a lane for HeaQ and sprattel.
Prophet face checking into the brush. It was early Christmas for him, but he didn't really want that present. Gilius, we'll see if he gets as much of a leash as he did last time around. Ruin still staying up towards the top side, so I think that may not be the case. And it was actually a very quiet early game from both junglers until the TP play happened.
Yeah, we saw HeaQ as well a little later start making plays on the top side, got one tower for NIP. But after that, they just slowed down, didn't really have any kind of way of making further plays on the map because Giants, they were spread out over 3 lanes, much like they're going to try to do later on in this game.
And for as well as we've seen Giants able to team fight, this is a really interesting change-up for them. It does seem like Giants have a multifaceted thought process, in all honesty, behind how they approach these games. And I don't know if NIP came prepared for this.
And it's a different play style that we're seeing out of Giants. Now, Giants trying to get the information of where Sejuani and the bottom lane is starting here with minitroupax and Jactroll. They did just spot HeaQ and sprattel heading into lane, and that's where Giants go in at the same time, because look, junglers who started in slightly different positions. Gilius was helped on the red buff by Ruin to start the game, and now goes over to his Raptor camp. Wanted that level 2 to be able to take the camp, because Kassadin wanted to get into lane early as well. Didn't want to have to come across and give a couple of auto attacks to help on the Raptors. Not exactly the best champion from the mid lane at helping.
So we might see the junglers taking a little bit of a back seat to where the laners are going to be going, but of course level 6 ultimates are going to be key as always. I do want to check in at the top lane though, because even though this is a little bit of an unusual matchup, Prophet in the early game, he did seem to keep Ruin pushed back and available. Ruin was kind of giving some space to him, but Prophet was definitely driving a lot of the early plays out of NIP. And on this Gnar, I think this is a big playmaking champion for him that should be a pretty crucial aspect of NIP's victory.
It feels like a matchup that Ruin has to give a lot of respect to Prophet over to in the beginning of the game. He can get farm under tower, and when Prophet is having that Mega Gnar expire, you can see Ruin trying to use the Q to get some farm there as well, but personally, I feel like Prophet should be able to control this matchup to go later on anyway in his favor. Yes, Poppy is very good at chasing down targets, can trade quite effectively, but with a frozen mallet, we might see Prophet just running down the Poppy. We will track that as we go further in the game. Again, not a matchup that we've seen all that often. That's something that's happening here in this promotion tournament. We've had a Jason and Aurelia yesterday. We got Poppy in the top lane.
Yeah, a little bit of unusual stuff, of course, but I mean, this is kind of what happens when Challenger meets LCS. Not everybody knows exactly what to expect. They're different leagues, different thought processes dominate. And it makes for some very interesting matches, but it's once again looking like, at the very least, the first few minutes are going to be a quiet start. We don't expect these junglers to really have a huge impact until those ultimates are up and available. To see a gank attempt last time, of course, by Gilius, or all the way wrapping around the side. And you can see they were setting up vision potentially to do that again.
Yeah, very similar to what NIP did in game 1. It was Prophet that secured this vision through top side. Now it is HeaQ that actually comes in here. But look, Ruin already has a ward here, so he'll be able to spot the Sejuani coming. Gilius is on his way top side, so this should be an easy play to defend against for the Giants. And they know HeaQ has retreated back into the jungle now, but HeaQ just spotted Gilius himself. Both have the read on the enemy jungler.
All right, Gilius on the Krug. HeaQ looking to come away and take his lunch money, or at least collapse on top of him. Instead, he just gets the flail out, charges in for the Arctic Assault. And there's a root. Gilius is just going to walk away from this one. Pretty easy peasy. A tappy slaps in the jungle.
Gilius is still getting the majority of this camp, though.
Yeah, he does not care.
HeaQ, actually not expecting Gilius to smite initially, was trying to come in and steal it away before that smite came through. HeaQ ending up with a little bit of time spent for no much gain.
Well, and HeaQ has been the target of criticism for not necessarily being the most active jungler out of all of our LCS players. He is trying to make some things happen, but if you can't really get anything for it, it's a little bit rough.
Yeah, a little bit rough, as is the mid lane matchup. The bot lane matchup actually is the one I want to talk about first. We'll get to mid later. HeaQ, 24 CS to 40 from minitroupax.
This is minitroupax, man. This guy is great. He's a solid AD carry. And HeaQ, you know, we question whether the performance he showed against Fnatic, which was honestly very impressive, would last in this series, and so far we just have not seen that HeaQ show up.
That's why minitroupax is able to just push forward in the lane. You saw it there. The shield was put on. They've got vision control all around the bottom lane as well, and it means HeaQ and sprattel can get just the farm they're able to get from that range as it pushes under the tower. And if they mess up with the autos under the tower, you've seen them miss a couple already, as NIP aren't able to close that CS difference.
But they need to do something with this Morgana. You talked about the ability to catch maybe on an errant dark binding, either Jactroll or minitroupax, if they can lock him down for a second. We're not going to see that just yet, but checking back up to the top side, it looks like Ruin is in trouble, has to flash away from the boulder toss. And Ruin, his health bar was definitely getting ruined on that one, so now Prophet, he's starting to show up pretty impressively, chasing away the little Yordle.
Yeah, and Prophet now knows he's safe up on the top side, is able to pull the wave back away. Even checks the brush there to make sure that nobody was in the lane still. He's had a great set of plays, at least in this game so far. His summer split performance has been perhaps the best of NIP when you look at the players on the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we looked at Prophet and say this is a guy that might need to be the one putting on his carry pants, because while Nagne and HeaQ may be the big damage dealers, HeaQ may be able to facilitate some things, it is more often than not Prophet that's getting the lion's share of the damage out, and now he's on a champion like Gnar that he can definitely do that on.
And he can also create openings and opportunities for NIP to build from. I think that is one of the most important things. Is we discussed how we went from being just a carry player to out being a team-focused player at times. I think Gnar is the right champion for this, where he can strike that balance between the two, where he can open up the side lane, push back Ruin as much as possible, and then go, okay, now we'll team fight, because I'm Mega Gnar. I can come in, I can have this big team fight presence.
And having the Poppy as an opponent doesn't really seem to phase him all that much. So Prophet, he's able to keep himself nice and safe and able to put the damage out as well. Now we're getting a little bit of extra insight from Ruin. If his Poppy's pretty good, we want to see. Maybe he shouldn't build items then.
Yeah, that was all the way back with Kikis on Fnatic Academy. When they were trying to get their way back into the CSQ. So that has been quite a long time since that. For those of you confused at why Kikis was playing in CSQ. Of course, that was before they were picked up by Mysterious
Kikis has
Monkeys,
been in like every level of play, man.
But the guy to focus on is Ruin. We've seen him for quite some time in Challenger. He was a part of the SK lineup after SK dropped out of the LCS. And never really solidified himself as a great top laner in Challenger, but this split has been a lot better for him. On Giants has been looking so much better. As you said in Game 1, very aggressive play style, pushing forward. I think this is the right time for Ruin to be proving his worth.
We'll see if he's able to do it, even though he's down a bit of CS. And, you know, it is a large part of that Giants success story, because this is a team that dominated consistently the Challenger circuit for quite a while. Of course, they lost to Schalke 04, another team in this tournament they might have to face later on down the line, but Giants had such an impressive performance, and, you know, it's easy to think that, oh, you know, Giants, they got relegated from LCS, how good can they be? This is a very different lineup.
Oh, yeah, wildly different lineup. No longer the Holy Trinity. And Giants right now have just looked like a much more solid all-around team. They got an AD carry that is reliable. You can put stock in, give him a lead, and he'll carry. The mid laner, Jizuke, was playing on Giants Only the Brave, their secondary team before this. So this is a player that they have a lot of trust in, and for good reason. He has dominated the mid lane matchups as well. Gilius, very experienced player that we've seen grow from strength to strength, playing the tanks on top of that. Like, I'm not even yet talking about Jactroll and Ruin at this point, and you can still go on at how consistent this Giants lineup has actually been.
Yeah, and speaking of that bottom lane, minitroupax, another player on Giants Only the Brave, and the reason we talked about this guy coming out of nowhere, because that was really the first team we really saw him do anything on, but considering how impressive his individual level of play has been, I mean, that is the kind of thing that makes you perk your head up and go, oh, wait a minute, this is a very talented young player coming in and making some serious plays in the proud tradition of excellent EU players. Usually in the mid lane, but we don't talk about AD carries as much as we should.
I think this split is actually EU AD carries a little more. We were discussing this earlier on in the week, I believe. I feel like this split, we can kind of make a lot of arguments for AD carries on top of that.
Well, when everyone in
the
mid lane's
LCS,
picking Lucian, I mean, like, now we're going to start moving towards the actual ADs.
That's very true. This game, the AD carries, again, minitroupax going in their favor. You can use a Kalista Ren now on the Dragon, get a Cloud Drake for yourself early on. Nice little bonus for Giants, but we are in the middle of a laning phase still. Mid lane, Jizuke and Nagne waiting to scale up. Jizuke will be able to take a lot of control later on, and you can see he has basically just survived a laning phase against the Corki, and he'll be like, okay, I'm now at a point where I can start finishing my items, Rod of Ages coming through, and just look solid the later this game goes. And Kassadin, we know if he gets 2 kills, that's basically the game done.
Yeah, he's definitely starting to get a little bit worrying for NIP, who haven't been able to come up with first blood in this game. And remember, the last time around, Giants, they secured the first dragon because they had to give up the top tower that was being pushed in for NIP. This is an even slower start for the Ninjas in Pyjamas, and it's a small gold lead for Giants, but they've been able to hold firm. Now, Shook is coming in bottom for a lane gank, but look at how far back the Giants dual lane is playing.
And they're under their tower with a Janna, with an exhaust as well, so Giants should be able to play this defensively. What NIP are trying to do, though, is assume as much control over Giants' territory as possible. Sprattel looking to plant extra wards, trying to find the Maokai, has just spotted him heading through that middle lane. So now they have the information. NIP are trying to push back that bot lane as much as possible. Shook is still there. This is something Shook does quite a lot. Wait around lanes to try and make a play. But at this point, you see he's not advancing a lead. This does work out quite a few times when he tries it. Shook is in the right place. Yeah, especially in the bottom lane.
But I like that Giants are playing, I wouldn't say so reserved, but playing safe enough, not taking unnecessary risks. With a few exceptions last game, you could maybe attribute to just the game running away in their favor and losing their heads. We're seeing Giants play with a level of poise that I don't think you can even expect from some LCS teams.
I think that's fair. They are in a tough situation on the top side for a second game in a row, though, so I want to see how that poise continues. Prophet, you can see, has already done 3/4 of the tower's health in damage. And this was the worry on this matchup, is that Gnar early on is going to be able to push, is going to be able to have damage. I feel like later on he will be able to have the similar kind of impact as well, but Ruin clearly has played this matchup and clearly picks it for a reason. We saw Kickers do the same thing, as we said, with Aurelia into Jace yesterday. He did then tweet that he misread the matchup, so tells you that sometimes these matchups that are a little unorthodox can go either way depending on the actual play in-game.
Just because it worked in solo queue doesn't mean you get to do it all the time.
Solo queue isn't necessarily always the problem with this. Scrims is the one that does it. So a lot of people...
5-on-5 solo.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people...
That is not actually true, by the way. Don't take me at face value.
This isn't specific to this matchup, but a lot of matchups that people play in scrims that have very aggressive trading patterns and jungler attention with aggressive ganks don't really formulate on stage because players play a lot more defensive, play a lot more reserved. I don't think this is the type of matchup that is the case, but certainly that's one reason why matchups can go different when they're a little unorthodox.
But speaking of playing reserved and playing back, like, yes, Ruin definitely seems to understand this matchup, but even in the last game, we saw him playing farther back, waiting for the right time to make a play, and consequently not really being heavily punished, and that was the exact opposite of what we saw in the Wind and Rain series.
True, and as Shook is heading towards the middle lane, I don't think anything's going to happen. Ruin, let's stick on this matchup for a second. Itemizing for this matchup particularly. Ninja Tabi were completed already. That gives him defensive poise against Prophet when he's in mini-Gnar. Now he's got the Barmy Cinder that'll help him push the lane back a little bit, help him with extra damage in trades, and a Bramble Vest. Again, denying some of the damage from Prophet. So Ruin clearly prepared for this, and I wonder at what point is this matchup going to be in Ruin's favor?
Yeah, it seems like he's just going to be happy holding the lane for the time being, and NIP, they've invested so much vision throughout this river to try and make sure they can spot any moves, to try and make sure they can get ahead. But again, HeaQ, he waits in this brush to try to get the gank out mid. It's a different champion, but it's no less hard or no less easy to catch Jizuke when he's got this post-level 6 cast. And level 11 now, he's going to be able to riff rock all over the place.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one area that Giants may look to move out of the mid lane towards. I feel like Nagne, you can see this is the second attempt of him moving topside. Pink comes top lane as well. He de-warded the pink ward that was on the way. The control ward, I should say, is NIP will get this tower in the top lane. Nagne returns. They knew they'd already worked that advantage from just the Gnar versus Poppy matchup.
Okay, so that gives the advantage once more to NIP up topside. While they were away, Giants trying to finish off the tower in the bottom. Doesn't end up happening. However, they do have it quite low, and with both junglers hanging around, they're going to be a little bit careful about going for the all-in play. minitroupax, haven't talked as much about his atomization, but of course the standard Kalista start with the boots 2 rush and working his way up as he has the Bilgewater Cutlass.
And a lot of that allows him to get into the lane on the Kalista faster, push out the lane as much as possible, try and get damage down on the tower. You can see is very low in Giants' favor as well. They've got that Ardent Sensor quite early on. Jactroll running the now standard rune setup where you run the golds on the yellows. The
all that money.
10. Yeah, and the quints. So he has already made it to this point.
I mean, that's why you win the race, right?
Yep.
So I feel like for Giants, now that some vision's been able to kind of evaporate here in this river, Rune's going to be able to run through and clear away some more. It just seems like NIP, for all the movements they've been making, and sniffing around, they just haven't been able to find an opening. And that's why this game is so dead even at 60 minutes. No kills, towers traded. That's about it. And with a Kassadin on the other team, I feel like this is always going to favor Giants.
Giants would like that Kassadin to have a kill or two, though. That's the difficult thing, is Kassadin, when he's just in a farm game, does scale up very well. But you do need just a little bit of a boost to get that Kassadin into the game sometimes.
All right, so should they be trying to make plays?
That's a difficult one, because you look at where do you make the play, right? Corki should be able to Valkyrie out in the middle lane. You've got a Tristana that can jump out in the bottom lane, and a Gnar that's difficult to lock down in the top side. So you can see why it hasn't really culminated in any kind of play. NIP were looking for the Rift Herald, though. That's a bit of a time sink, and that's why HeaQ is going to pull back away. Yeah. Giants have the opportunity to do this,
and
though,
they have the Kalista. Yeah. Ooh, after they'd scared them away, if they were able to get this one just like last game, Giants just looking to come out slightly ahead of this early game. Now, sprattel is coming to the rescue. You can see HeaQ kind of trying to collapse around, but there's no hard commitment here from NIP. The rest of them are already out of there. HeaQ is already back. So once again, the Ninjas have given up the Rift Herald. And it gets picked up by Gilius.
And now this could be used mid lane to break through the Corki line. That's one thing Kassadin struggles with on his own, is actually pushing out the middle lane against a pick like Corki. They aren't going immediately for it, though, as Giants are kind of resetting the game for themselves. You can see Jizuke opting towards that Lich Bane, as we see a lot of times on the Kassadin. Maybe in trouble here, but no ultimate used by HeaQ.
Yeah, he's got the Rift Walk out. Doesn't matter too much, and you could see right before we panned up to that one, Prophet being held in check by all of the armor that Ruin has thrown on. A Glacial Shroud added to everything. And Prophet might be in the Mega Gnar. Yes, he can throw some rocks, but Ruin can absorb hit after hit after hit. Is he going to win this matchup? No, but this Poppy is definitely not going to die anytime soon.
At some point, he might. Prophet only had 3 minions worth on low health to actually get attacks onto the tower. So Ruins looks to be opting towards the build that we've seen quite a lot when Poppy was meta. When you go Sunfire Cape, you get yourself Iceborne Gauntlet, you kind of stick on somebody, you hit them a lot. There is the other school of thought where you can get Righteous Glory, but... Oh, actually, it could be a Righteous Glory, because it builds out a Glacial Shroud. I was about to say, but it doesn't build out of armor, and I realized we changed that a bunch of patches ago, and now it does. So it could be Righteous Glory.
I'm glad you've been studying up. I would not have remembered that.
I was like looking, because I had a conversation with Chachi about Poppy, because he's a Poppy wonder.
I mean, he was the pre-rework Poppy, man.
Exactly, and he was like, yeah, Iceborne Gauntlet's still great. So that's where my mind was at. But look, a lot has happened in this sequence here. on the game as Giants push through the top side. We saw the Sejuani ultimate used in the middle lane. Ruin has been able to hold off the bottom side as well, and Giants are once again pushing forward, trying to just take as much control of the map as they can.
Yeah, and it's resulting in a gold lead. We're not quite 20 minutes into this one, and you can see how much damage they're able to dish onto this tower. So they get number 3 for themselves. NIP unable to find an answer. And once again, it seems like Giants are just playing this out slow and steady to win the race.
And I don't know whether that's a playstyle that NIP can afford to bring out here. I don't know whether NIP actually want to take a slow game. Maybe they want to be more active on the map, try and start fights, because I feel like if you let Giants play their own game, they will start to smother you again.
Yeah, it seems really strange. Once again, we talked about how NIP drafted for teamfight, drafted some ability to get catches, but Giants, they're not giving an opening. You can't cast a net wide enough to catch these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like NIP, their win condition kind of starts to build on this Sejuani ultimate, the dark binding that comes from NIP. But look, Jizuke now with Ruin in the bottom lane.
Okay, Keeper's Verdict flashing forward, Rift Walk, and now Prophet has nowhere to go. The buckler, the auto, he hops, and it looks like he's going to maybe make this one out, but Jizuke's still got mana in the tank, and he's going to send another shot his way.
No slow applied.
It's so close. Jizuke will not be denied. Oh, he will!
He will be denied, Pyra, because Jizuke, ever so little amount of damage left on Prophet's health bar. Jizuke couldn't quite get him. 2 mobile champions not being able to lock down a Gnar. That's one of the strengths. Mid lane.
Oh boy, now they've got the combo they needed in 20 minutes in. We got first blood, and we will not get second. Jactroll walking away until Nagne finishes it.
So Giants weren't making a play in mid lane, but it looked like they were just casting the Rift Herald to try and break through the tower. But now we're past 20 minutes. NIP actually going to opt towards a Baron. That was a bit of a blunder out of Giants, but a great catch by NIP, knowing that with Prophet on the escape rate in the bottom lane, NIP can just take a fight in mid lane because minitroupax and Jactroll were pushed up. Here comes Ruin again, though.
Now there's the fight. They're inside the back of the pit.
Oh, the Maokai ult.
The roots. Prophet stopped up the Baron, dishing a lot of damage, and Ruin, he's trying to take some health. Jizuke, he's exhausted for the time being. Sends out the Force Pulse. Gilius, Prophet dueling with each other here, but the Baron is allowed to reset. Shook very low. No way NIP can get this Baron now. It was a nice attempt. It looks like HeaQ may not live to tell about it. Flashing away. A lot of summoners burnt. Dark Binding comes and catches Jizuke for the disengage, and that will be all.
3 versus 5 denial out of Giants. They're going to clear away the vision from the pit. They have Kalista, and remember, NIP, they're recoiling. Prophet's dead. They're actually now going to start the Baron because they got Kalista. Giants, from what was an overcommit in the middle lane. Jizuke stopping the backs here again. Nagne, no mana, now cannot come up to this pit to contest it. From what was NIP punishing Giants hard in the middle lane, Giants settle themselves with the top 3 members of the team and just deny NIP, take up enough time that minitroupax and Jactroll are alive, and the Baron has gone to Giants.
Another uncontested Baron. It counts as uncontested because it reset. Giants, really, just despite some individual mistakes, this counteraction was impressive and nothing NIP could do.
So Gilius knew that he didn't have to commit more than his ultimate at first because it'll lock NIP down, Baron will deal more damage, you can turn around and actually kite this fight backwards, just take more time, and then Jizuke gets more damage down. Look, Kalista and Janna are already running from the base, so NIP know they've got HeaQ very low. We didn't catch how Jizuke finds it, but Jizuke was bound up. HeaQ comes back in to the... no, drags himself back away.
Okay.
And then Prophet goes forward, root from Gilius into the kill. Okay, as Giants then ended up looking for the Baron. Easy Kalista play on that one, and Prophet, unfortunately, was trying to help out his team, but couldn't quite survive.
Yeah, and first death that NIP gave up on the game, so now it opened the Baron buff right back up. It opened mid-tower here for Giants Gaming, and yet another Dragon. So for 2 games now, Giants Gaming not without some individual mistakes and stumbles, but overall, a very strong sense of how to play it without giving any weaknesses, giving any openings for NIP to punish.
Oh, and we're in the game state exactly like game 1, Pyra. There's different playstyle out of Giants than we saw in the regular split and in the playoffs, where they're playing a 1-3-1 strong side lane setup. Now they've got the Baron buff. TP comes through because it's a 2 versus 1 on the bottom side.
It's a wild Jizuke chase.
He needs to drag them back towards the TP. He just killed HeaQ.
And Shook just doesn't have any damage, so now Ruin's gonna tag his way in with the hammer shock, and Ruin's gonna pick up a kill. Giants are a running train.
Oh, this is just going from bad to worse for NIP, but for Giants, they are finding the exchanges, finding the fights. They capitalize on a misplaced 2 versus 1 in the bottom lane, and HeaQ ends up dying. Giants, again, in full control of a game that started out a little bit rocky, and it's Jizuke on the side lane threat. They didn't have the Echo. They bring out the Kassadin, and again, he's looking like a complete monster on the side lane.
Once again, we had ourselves a slow start. However, looks like 10 minutes earlier than last time around, Giants are breaking into the base. Gilius following around, keeping NIP occupied. Ruin tagging in once again. Trying to find the kills. Keep on going here. It looks like underneath the towers, they don't care. Down goes Nagne. minitroupax even getting a kill. Ruin on the freaking Fountain Man. They're coming up with it huge.
Giants have broken the back of NIP off that Baron play. And look, only 3 members remain against a full Baroned up team from Giants looking for the win.
NIP struggling to try and react, but Giants on the verge of going up 2-0. Not presenting any weaknesses as they hide right within the line of the minions to get the last Nexus turret down. And if they can play this one out nice and safe, continually pushing them back, Jizuke is still absolutely massive, and the Giants, they are grinding NIP's bones to make their bread this game.
Wow, that game just ends with Giants getting the Baron, playing the side lane. NIP tried to make a catch happen against the Kassadin because you're trying to deny the 1-3-1 setup. You're trying to get a kill out on the side lane, but NIP did not read that commit well enough. Giants just TP in. In comes Ruin, saves Jizuke, they win the game.
20 minutes and 30 seconds in, we get first blood in NIP's favor. 5 minutes later, Giants end the game. What the hell was that?
That was a very different game with the same pattern of how Giants won. But you're right, 5 minutes later, the game is completely over, and Giants are already headed to the back, looking at how they got to win one more game, and they're 1 step away from the LCS.
We could very well be in a similar situation to the last time around in the promotion tournament where both the challenger teams show up right away. It was a 5-game series yesterday, but Giants, they're looking to make this one 3-0.
And what a statement that would be, because NIP come off beating Fnatic. Everybody says, okay, you have to respect that victory as making NIP the favorites. Giants say, no. We are the favorites today. Don't be fooled by the fact Wind and Rain didn't show up. Giants, Jizuke, minitroupax have both been looking great. Ruin did a fantastic job in this game. You can't pick out any member of Giants and say, yeah, this guy's not doing well.
And it was the exact same thing in the early game with NIP finding small edges here, not any kills this time around, but being able to push in a couple of lanes, establish a little bit of control. Up in the top side, Prophet was kind of punishing Ruin a lot in this matchup, but when it came down to it, that Poppy did exactly what it needed.
It did everything it needed. Ruin had 1 item at the end of this game. Righteous Glory. Everything else, everything else
to be fair,
was components. He had a Bramble Vest, he had a Bami Cind, he had a Kindle Gem. Sure, okay, that all adds up.
He had done 2,500 gold.
Oh, he
didn't
his inventory.
Between
yeah,
that crazy fight all the way to the end. I'm pretty sure from bottom lane all the way to the inhibitor, that was just all Ruin.
That was a crazy end to the game. Just complete destruction in 5 minutes in favor. And we said that we didn't really know how the matchup would go in the late game after the Gnar had the Frozen Mallet and the Black Cleaver. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Only just then did Prophet get the Frozen Mallet Black Cleaver.
And I feel like for 2 games in a row, we've kind of had the answer to the question, is Prophet going to really be able to step up and carry some of these games? On the Gnar, he finally kind of had a bit more of a chance. We didn't get to see it. NIP just couldn't set up the punishes, couldn't set up the catches that they needed to do to win this game.
It hasn't been enough. And we saw Giants punish in the first game, the early Kalista pick. They take the Kalista for themselves, and it looks a whole lot better. I believe we're going to look at the last fight, Devin. It was one of the only fights in this game.
It was exactly the same way the last game ended. Down on the bottom side. And here we go.
It actually was, you're right. Through the bottom side, Prophet ends up dropping quite low. See, he doesn't even have the Frozen Mallet completed at this point in the fight. Gilius was dragged all the way in. Ruin was dragged all the way in. Plays this frontline defensive standpoint, and then Giants just are able to walk through the rest of the base. The damage from Jizuke, the damage from minitroupax, everything adds up. And Giants just win the game.
Yep. It's kind of like a slow cresting wave. It was building for a little while, just kind of making its way through, and then all of a sudden it crashes down into the base of NIP. So now 2 games in a row, Giants have found success without showing too much of their hand. A few different picks, some expected, some not. and NIP have not been able to find a single answer.
No, they haven't. Only maybe in the early parts of the game have NIP looked like a challenger to Giants. I guess that's like kind of ironic that the Giants are the challenger team right now, because you could very easily make a case for Giants looking strong enough to contend against some of the teams that NIP were falling to.
You have to take challenger literally at that point, because they definitely are showing up, and it's even more impressive than what Schalke 04 was showing yesterday against the Mysterious Monkeys, an arguably weaker team than NIP.
Well,
by standards, or by records, yeah.
I can understand when you look at how, like, NIP with the Fnatic series, did beat NIP, which gave them their...
Okay, fair enough. I can't really logic this one around very well.
It's okay. We can head to break. We can get out of this situation.
Bail it. All right. NIP, they've got their backs against the walls here. They need to win. They need to win just in Game 3 to stay alive. So meet us back here for that after the break.
Mid lane.
Oh boy, now they've got the combo they needed in 20 minutes in. We got first blood, and we will not get second. Jactroll walking away until Nagne finishes it.
To drag them back towards the team. HeaQ.
HeaQ just doesn't have any damage, so now Ruin's gonna tag his way in with the hammer shot, and Ruin's gonna pick up a kill.
Jizuke. Nice.
Underneath the towers, they don't care. Down goes Nagne. minitroupax even getting a kill. Ruin on the freaking fountain, man. Jizuke is still absolutely massive, and the Giants, they are grinding NIP's bones to make their bread this game.